There's a very logical idea in tennis. The earlier you specialize, the better you become. More hours, more drills, more tennis. But decades of scientific research now point to a completely different route to elite performance. Hi, my name is Erik. I'm a human movement scientist and I've been a tennis coach for the past 14 years in my home city, Amsterdam. Today we'll look at research on athlete development and how real improvement actually happens. By the end of this video, you'll know what that route is and why it gives players a much higher chance of long-term success. Imagine taking two very different roads to the top. One that looks faster and one that actually gets you there. Most players follow the road that feels right and later wonder why progress slows down. And this is true for young players, but also extremely relevant for adult players today. Let's dive into it. When kids focus only on tennis early on, they improve faster at first. They win more matches and they look more advanced. And that makes everybody think they must be on the right track. But here's the tricky part. Early success feels like proof, but it doesn't always predict elite performance later in life. In fact, quite the opposite. In a moment, I'll explain why the players who often shine early often struggle later. When researchers looked at how world-class athletes actually developed, they kept finding the same pattern. And they did so across a variety of sports and disciplines, not just tennis. Elite performers usually played multiple sports when young, specialized later than average, and spent more time in playful and varied movement early on. Not because they or their parents weren't serious about their sport or anything, but because they were building something essential first. You could call it a foundation. And this foundation turns out to be incredibly important. And before I explain what that foundation is all about, I quickly want to share something from my own childhood. I only started playing tennis when I was 10. Before that, I did a variety of other sports, mainly judo from a young age. I think I was 4. I also did things like breakdance, soccer, swimming, and even horseback riding. At the time, it had nothing to do with tennis, or so I thought. But years later, I could clearly feel how those experiences helped my movement on court. And science now explains finally why that happens. I'm from the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, we have a very promising scientific model on development called the athletic skills model. This model is based on a simple idea. Before becoming a specialist, you first become a great mover. Think of it like a pyramid. At the bottom, you have things like balance, coordination, speed, and body control. Just above that, you have broader sport skills. And only at the top, the narrow top, you have the sport-specific skills, like tennis technique. Now, if that base is narrow, the top becomes fragile. But if the base is wide, you can build much higher. This is one of the reasons variety early on matters so much. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Research shows that varied movement experiences don't just make athletes stronger or fitter. They actually improve how the brain learns skills. Studies found that athletes with broader sport backgrounds adapt faster, solve movement problems better, and learn complex skills more efficiently later on. Or said more simply, they become better learners. And this is exactly what gives them a big advantage when they focus on their target sport later on. And this in turn leads to something that's especially important for tennis. Let me introduce you to the topic of skill transfer. Research shows that skills learned in context A can be learned to be applied in context B. And this is something else than copying exact techniques. But it's more about transferring things like timing, balance, coordination, perception, and body awareness. And in tennis, that's huge, because no two balls are ever the same. Every shot requires adaptation, and the richer your movement background, the easier that adaptation becomes. If you want to learn more about the topic of skill transfers, check out the link in the description. And before we go on, my name is Erik. I make videos about tennis and science, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure to subscribe. And if you like the video so far, give it a like, because it simply really helps the channel. Now back to the video. I believe it were skill transfers from other sports that helped me so much. Judo, for instance, taught me how to control my body and stay balanced. And breakdance probably gave me more rhythm and fluid movement. And I could even make an argument that horseback riding gave me better posture. And yes, these examples are anecdotal. But scientific models like the athletic skills model or the early engagement hypothesis support this idea. All of the sports and disciplines I did at a young age built that wide base first, the foundation. So all of them, in one way or another, supported my tennis later. Another consistent finding in research, early specialization is linked to higher risk of overuse injuries, mental exhaustion, burnout, and quitting the sport early. Doing the same movements every day stresses the same joints and muscles. And mentally, it can drain enjoyment. It's variety that spreads the load, which keeps sports fun and helps athletes stay in the game for the long run. This video may deserve some nuance because I don't want to say tennis is bad. I just want to say every sport offers something valuable. And the key findings of continued research is finding that balance. Yes, you can engage with a sport early, but make sure there's variety. You can focus later. If we follow what science consistently shows, the most effective path looks something like this. In the early years, you do many sports, you have lots of movement variety, and there's playful learning. Then in adolescence, there's a gradual specialization. And just a bit later, there's a high focus in the target sport. So don't rush narrowing down too soon. Build the wide base first. So the best way to get good at tennis isn't just more tennis as early as possible. It's building a strong athletic foundation first, letting your body and brain learn broadly, and then only specializing when you're ready. It may feel slower in the beginning, but in the long run, it's the road that leads to high performance. Tell me in the comments which other sport than tennis you're doing now or have done in the past, or which you think that will help you with your tennis today or later in life. I'll try and reply to all of them. Like always, I want to thank you for being here all the way until the end. I really appreciate it. Maybe you'll like this video YouTube is recommending you, and see you on the next one.